Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line for another edition of The Haunting as we dive into the world of the weird and the paranormal. Friends, joining me on the line is Steve Gorman from Steve Gorman Rocks. Hey, Steve, how we doing?
Oh man, I'm just moving along towards Halloween like the rest of us. It's a sacred time of year.
How into Halloween, and not just, we'll save the paranormal stuff for a second, but just Halloween in general. How much does Steve Gorman get into Halloween?
The kids are both in college now, so not as much. But living in Nashville, raising two kids, we lived in a Halloween-centric neighborhood. And so, I was like a kid, obsessed with it like everybody. I had a brief run in my 20s when I was, hey, Halloween parties are cool when you can drink.
Yeah.
And then kind of put it to the side. And then once the kids are like 3, 4, and 5 years old, it comes back full steam. And I'll just say this. My basement has a full cemetery, hanging witches, goblins, ghosts, lights, fog machines, all you need to get your house and front yard ready. It's right there waiting to be set up.
Oh, that's awesome. So trick-or-treat night comes around. Were you the dad that took the kids around or the dad that stayed home and handed out candy?
We did shifts. And
Okay.
Our neighborhood it really is like Halloween Central in our neighborhood in Nashville. There were literally hundreds and hundreds of kids would come each night. Like we didn't have the trick-or-treating where you open the door and then close the door, open the door. We set up in the front yard, and there's a line for 3 straight hours where all you're doing is handing out candy. I mean,
Wow.
I'm not exaggerating, especially if it's a Friday or Saturday night. It just started right at sunset, and it went for 3 or 4 hours. And, this is like 80, 90 pounds of candy purchase, and you always run out. Crazy stuff.
What was the Gorman house known for giving out?
It was always a mix. We just buy bulk, whatever looks good, because the kid who complains about candy. I mean, what's wrong with them? So it's like we'd have it'd be every type of candy you could buy. We'd just get a bunch of bags of everything. But I'm the kind of guy who, if I really like your costume, you're going to get 2 or 3 pieces.
I always just say, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Steve Gorman from Steve Gorman Rocks on the line with me as we dive into the world of the paranormal here on The Haunting. It's a segment we do we've been doing it for about the last 5 years here on the station. But Steve, I thought we'd change it up this year and talk to you about this stuff. Let's start at this point. Where does Steve Gorman sit with this stuff? Are you a believer? Are you not a believer? What's the world of the paranormal mean to you?
I'm a believer, but I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I used to be a staunch non-believer. And then I had to admit, wait a minute, I've actually had a couple of experiences and I can't explain them. So there's got to be something going on. But nothing's happened where I felt compelled to really dig in.
Okay.
I don't know. I still have records I haven't listened to. I still have books I haven't read. So one of these days, maybe I'll get a little more interested in this stuff. But that's coming from a guy who would tell you, I can tell you on a few occasions, I've absolutely seen things and felt things and heard things that in quotes weren't there.
See, I think that's always the interesting point because kind of like my wife, she's never had an experience. So she doesn't care about any of this stuff. She doesn't get into it. She won't talk to me about it or anything like that. But you hear a lot of people that once they have that experience that they can't explain, it kind of gets turned on its head.
Yeah, I guess the last time I had something happen, and it was very specific, and in the moment and for a few weeks, I was charged by this. At the same time, I had a toddler and a newborn, so I only had so much energy in a day to think about it.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I had an experience. We lived in Los Angeles at the time. It was 2003, and a neighbor had a little Saturday afternoon cookout. Like all the neighbors with all their kids and toddlers were all in the backyard, grilling burgers, just doing what you do. And I walked into his house, into the kitchen to go grab another beer. And as I walked into his kitchen, I walk across the kitchen to where the cooler of beer is. And as I grab it, I look to the side over by the kitchen sink. I see there's an older woman in there, and she's got it looked like she was wearing a red cap or had a red scarf or a bandana over her head, and she was standing at the sink. And what I realized was, oh my God, I just brushed right by her and didn't even acknowledge her. I didn't see her. like all this is in the blink of an eye. Like
Yeah.
I recognized side view. Oh my God, old woman with the red thing on her head. And so then I turned to say, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And there's no one there. But I had this she was there and then she wasn't. And then I'm like, wait, what, there's not an old woman in this house. What am I thinking? And I just was so mystified by this. And I grabbed my beer and I'm thinking to myself, I'd had 2 beers. I hadn't had 30, so I'm like, I'm still very lucid. And I'm like, wait, what was that? Was it a deja vu thing? Did I have a dream last night and now a little flash of it just came back to me? I walked back outside and my buddy Jared is standing there. It's his house. And I clearly had a look on my face because he comes right up to me. He goes, what's up? I said, what? He goes, what are you doing? And I go, dude, I had the weirdest thing happen. I just walked into your kitchen and I thought there was like an old woman in there. For a split second. I saw her and I thought I'd almost run her over. So I started to apologize. And he says to me, he goes, did she have like a red thing on her head? Was there like a bandana or something? And I looked at him and I went, yeah. And he goes, I've never seen her, but Sadie talks about her all the time. That was his 3-year-old daughter.
Oh, weird.
And he goes, look, and he showed me Sadie has drawn a stick figure, a woman with a red, bandana or hat, like with red on her head. And the child says she sees this woman in the kitchen pretty regularly.
Oh, wow. Did they have any history on the house or anything like that they may have known where this
Nope.
person? So nothing. Just the kid had seen it and you had seen it.
Yep. And then Jared called his wife over, and Courtney, and she was all excited. Oh my God, you saw her. And I'm like, okay, you guys are nuts. I got a diaper. I got to change somewhere. No, it was really weird. And then, of course, for the next hour, everyone's talking about this fact. And it was just one of those things, and then life goes on. And I was in that kitchen several times after that, and always I'm looking and never saw again. But, that's a very real thing that happened, complete with the kid having drawn what she said is an old woman. So there's clearly something there, no doubt about it.
Steve Gorman from Steve Gorman Rocks on the line with me, talking the world of the paranormal here on The Haunting. Was that your first experience that you couldn't explain, or was there another?
There was one as a kid, not a little kid. I was probably 12 or 13. This is in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where I grew up. And my family and we were in a local theater group. We do musical stuff. Plays, and the woman who ran the theater company, I was at her house. Her son was a friend of mine, and it was this really eccentric older couple, and they had like this really cool old house. They were really, really fascinating people. Now we would call them hoarders. Back then they were just interesting quirks, interesting kooks who had a lot of quirky hobbies and clearly never threw anything out. Like that's what that was.
Okay.
But their house was they just had a house full of crazy stuff. And I was in that house one day, and they were just talking about that they have a ghost who lives upstairs named Harvey. So when they were talking about it, I just laughed and chalked it up to of course they do. And but I said, like, so how do you know who Harvey is? Do you hear him? I said, do you see him? And I said, no, we hear him. And then at night, sometimes, the mom said, I've seen what looks like a little vapor mist at times, but we hear Harvey, and they said Harvey was the guy that built this house 100 years ago, and he just walks up and down the upstairs. He never comes downstairs. He is upstairs, and we hear his footsteps, and he will close doors, and he will do things, and then we welcome him, and he's never scary. And I'm looking at them like, they have 3 heads, but they believe it, and I'm like, well, these are my eccentric friends. And I said, well, so will I ever hear Harvey? And they said, oh, well, maybe you just got to wait around a while. We're sitting there within a few minutes, as if on cue, I hear footsteps upstairs, the exact sound of someone walking down the upstairs hallway.
Oh, wow.
And I said, come on, who's up there? And they're like, no one's here. I go upstairs. I look in every room. There's nobody up there. There's not a speaker somewhere playing a sound effects out. I'm skeptical. I hear it again when I go back downstairs, and I hear it 2 or 3 times. And I said, does Harvey ever do anything other than walk around? And they said, well, sometimes he'll shut a door. And I said, anything else? I mean, the wind could knock the door shut. And as I'm saying this, we hear a crash. And we go upstairs, and there's a light bulb that was on a desktop on a dresser, and it had rolled off and hit on the floor and exploded.
Oh, wow.
And I, again, I was like, okay, I'm here. I heard every bit of that. I know exactly how this happened, and I can't explain it. And I just got up and went about my day. I'm like, well, I got to get to the, that paper's not going to deliver itself. I had a paper route that summer, so I got to get on with life. And it's funny because for years I was always really skeptical, but that happened when I was like 12 or 13. And then in my late 30s, I had the thing in LA. So I finally just admitted, wait a minute, what am I talking about? Of course there's something out there. I don't have an explanation or the answers, but I certainly do believe there are other realms.
It's interesting to think about this stuff. I think it's more, I've always been of the sort that it's fascinating to think about. And then you start getting some of those experiences where it's like, okay, maybe there is something to this, and it's a little bit more than just the fun aspect. Those are two very, very good stories, Steve.
Yeah, and it's funny because like my wife had said like, those are amazing. I'm like, oh really? That's a big deal, because I just kind of forget about it. She's like, yeah, I've never had anything like that happen ever. And of course, if one of those things happened to my wife, she would go off the deep end. I mean, she'd go get her paranormal degree from Scary University, and I'd never see her again. Trust me.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun. I wish that university existed. I'd have a whole different career in front of me. But Steve Gorman from Steve Gorman Rocks on the line with me right now. Do you ever get interested in going out and doing some of the investigating, or would it be interesting to you? Or is it just these things happened?
I've never thought about it, honestly. Of course, now I'm saying all this, I'm thinking of a third place on tour in 1991 with the Black Crows. We were at a castle in Scotland that had been converted to a hotel. It's called Airth, Airth Castle. And the story we heard was that you could hear little children running up and down the hallways at night. And there was some story that they'd been murdered there in the 1800s. And every one of the band in the morning reported having heard. I did too. I heard laughter and footsteps running up and down the hallway. I full on heard that. And at that time we were all too cool to say it was kind of freaky. We were all like, yeah, whatever. But this is so funny. Yeah. You text me, you're like, hey, do you want to talk about this stuff? I'm like, yeah, but I don't have much to say. Now I'm 3 stories in, and I'm like, what have I been doing all my life to figure this stuff out?
Like I said, I've always just had this kind of fascination with it. And I was probably in my 20s before I legitimately thought there was something to it. Now, like you said, do I have the answers to what it is or what's happening? No, and I don't think there's many people out there that do, but it's so much fun to talk about.
Yeah, it is. For my morning show up in Minneapolis, we talked with a paranormal investigator the other day who spent some time at a restaurant here in St. Paul, Minnesota, that has a legendary, it's called the Lexington, and there are stories for 100 years of visions and sounds and sights. And he spent a night there recently, and he said they had all kinds of interactions. And the staff at this restaurant for years reports that a former head chef who's been dead for years, they hear him saying words on a regular basis. People will be in certain parts of the kitchen and they hear that voice. And he said, "Oh, there's so much material, man." And we got a ton of contact in one night that we had a sleepover in the kitchen. So, this is definitely the time of year when people are starting to pay more attention to that stuff.
How do you feel about some of the other stuff out there? Like, and we don't have to go too broad, but there's the Bigfoot stuff. There's UFOs. There's just kind of this whole world of the weird. Just kind of, hey, I'm willing to listen to it. Had experiences. Where does Steve Gorman sit on that stuff?
Okay, Bigfoot is ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. Nobody saw Wolverine, the animal. No one saw an actual Wolverine in the continental United States for like 100 years. Right? They were only up in Canada. And then, like 10 years ago, somebody out in the Rocky Mountains put up one of those wildlife cameras to just capture 247's feed, and they're like in a really remote area, and right away they're just showing Wolverines. They're partying, they're smoking cigarettes, they're playing cards, they're hanging out. Overnight, all of a sudden, there's like, holy crap, there's Wolverines everywhere. And next thing you know, you got guys finding Wolverines. And then the PBS special where you see a guy who's like got not completely trained, but he's playing with wolverines, like these, animals that can rip you in half.
Yeah.
Nobody had seen one south of the Canadian border for almost 100 years. If Bigfoot was out there, everybody on the planet has a camera in their pocket 247. Somebody's going to see that big sucker. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just impossible that there are Sasquatch and Yetis and Bigfoot, big feet, whatever out there that we haven't found. So I'm not buying that one. I mean, if a meteor streaks across the Siberian sky, there's 50 videos of it. In 3.2 seconds, 50 people capture it. So I don't buy Bigfoot.
Okay.
I don't buy the Loch Ness Monster. I don't buy the Chupacabra. I don't buy any of that. Aliens, life forms from other planets, I don't know if they exist, but I hope they do. I don't want to think that humans are the top of if we're the best the universe has to offer, I don't feel so great about the universe's prospects.
It's a whole lot of waste of space if it's just us.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, the stuff we still fight over as a species, the way we still carry on in like human beings, we know we have a limited time on this earth, and we still get caught up on the most inane things. So I'd love to think that there's some people out there that have a little bit more figured out than we do.
All right, Steve Gorman from Steve Gorman Rocks on the line with me right now. We'll wrap up with this. What's Steve Gorman's go-to Halloween movie?
Probably I'd just go right to the first Halloween. The sequel. The Halloween 2 is good. Halloween 1, and I tell you, I was like 14 when it came out, so there's a personal attachment. Seeing that in the theater, I had to sneak in because it was rated R. Honest to God, it was traumatizing. It wasn't like, oh my God, it was amazing. I mean, that's what I said to my friends. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I hadn't seen a horror film on the big screen before. The combination of the music, just the music alone, the mask that you can't see anything, there's nothing to it, the complete, the whole idea of high school kids and babysitters. I mean, I was in that wheelhouse when that movie came out. It just absolutely blew my mind. And so many things have come along since that have, they take so many of the blueprints, the playbook from Halloween. It just always works for me. There's never a time, if I'm flipping channels, and this time of year it's on again on stuff, if I see that movie, wherever I am when I turn to it, I'm going to sit there and watch it.
Perfect. Steve Gorman from Steve Gorman Rocks, night show here on KGGO. Thank you so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. See you.